Hi everyone, and welcome back to Big Data Days 2022. I hope in day one you've managed to have fun, learn a lot of things about big data, data science, and data analytics. So for today's session, we also have a list of incredible speakers who'll be talking more about the topics I've just mentioned. So please help me welcome our first speaker for today, Poonam. Poonam is a senior cloud solution architect at Microsoft focusing on data and AI, working with partners and customers in the Asia region to enable their data and AI journey on the cloud. She's also passionate about women in data and AI and leads the hackathon pillar of Code Without Barriers initiatives at Microsoft. In this session, you will learn about what is responsible AI, why it is even more important when AI and machine learning is getting mainstream. Poonam will also explain what is Responsible AI Framework and Responsible AI Toolbox available to include responsible AI practices in your machine learning development lifecycle. So, Poonam, whenever you are ready, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Jeremy, for that introduction. Let me quickly share my screen and ask a customary thing if people are able to see my screen, right? So that's become very common these days. uh, just give me a minute. I'm sharing my screen. Right. I hope everybody is able to see my screen. Um, good morning and good afternoon for folks who are joining in, and hope you've been having a great time with the sessions that have happened yesterday and what will happen today as well. So, before I even start my talk, right, I would like to ask one question. Okay, so how many of you here who've joined the call know that the decisions that have been made about you in the past week, in the past month, over the past 6 months have been based on an artificial system, an artificial intelligence system? Any numbers or anything in the chat that you want to put? Do you know how many decisions about you have been made by an artificial intelligence system? It's perfectly okay not to know because even I wouldn't know that, but I'm just asking if I'm curious to know if people know about it. And the next question that I would like to ask is that uh, yes, there have been decisions made about you based on AI models, but have these decisions been made based on your gender, on your ethnicity, on your age? How would you know that, right? That's keeps me thinking all the time. Uh, I would also, try to intrigue you a little. I will also talk to you about this one person that I know, and this person actually thinks this way. Okay, and tell me what you think about this person's thinking. This person thinks that the a person of color, maybe a black person or a Latino, is more likely to default on a loan, or maybe she or he thinks that. Uh, a person named Tom will be a better developer than a person named Mary, right? Or maybe a black person would have the tendency of being a repeat offender. Yeah, I'm sure you will tell me, hey Poonam, this is insane. The way this person is thinking is totally not acceptable, and there's something needs to be course corrected. To tell you that these are some real world decisions that have been made by AI systems today. And this is also to bring to your notice two important things. A, it is not the problem of the AI system, or we cannot blame AI for having these biases. It is really the biases that we humans have that have been getting into the AI systems, right? So that's one thing. And another important thing that I would like to highlight is that these real world decisions are very have really penetrated across all industries, and the implications are very high. It is not just about recommending you with the best product, or recommending you about the next show you need to binge on. These are being used for real world uh, problems, and that's why I believe that responsible AI is super, super important. And that's what I'm here to talk about. So let's get started. I have a packed agenda. So in terms of the agenda, I will start off with demystifying what is an AI bias, why and what is responsible AI, what is Microsoft's responsible AI framework? How do you ensure that the models that you build incorporate responsible AI? I have a demo as well, and then we open it up for questions and answers. Right? I would love it to be interactive, and I would love to hear your thoughts on, have you encountered these, and if you have, how have you overcome them? Right? So let's get started with that. So this was a study that was done by one of the agency, and these were the top challenges that they found in when implementing machine learning. I am particularly interested in the bottom row, where it says that 54% of the respondents find that having model fairness and eliminating bias is a challenge for them, and the other 49% thought that lack of trustworthy and cost effective solutions is another problem when it comes to challenges in machine learning. So this is what we'll try to understand, what are these challenges, and how can we think about addressing these challenges, right? So why responsible AI? I would like to first talk about some instances which you may have read or may have not read, but these are the three important points when it comes to why we need responsible AI. So, the first thing is about how AI systems continue to miss expectations. So, just recently during COVID, I read this article about how Walmart had these robots in their, to scan shelves, and how they scrapped that deal. Now, the details of it has not come out, but on the Uber level, it looks like the people were able to outperform the robots. So, typically, the AI systems were not as performant, right? I think you would have seen this one about how IBM Watson overpromised and underdelivered on AI healthcare. Uh, as AI is developing, I always think that the AI at today is at the level of my son's brain, right? My son is just around 7, and that's where AI is. We've got a long way to go. Since AI is still learning, there are new challenges coming in, and we are seeing them as well. This is something that is very close to heart. This is about GitHub and Copilot. So, Copilot was a feature that was introduced in GitHub to help developers come up with, the code all by itself, right? So, now, a smart developer went and asked the Copilot to actually provide, storage keys. Like, if any cloud environment has a storage keys associated with it, and the Copilot went ahead and provided these keys. Now, that means secrets are being leaked. Now, this is where these are the new challenges that are coming in. Another interesting thing was around how deepfake. This was a lot about monetary. We could see the monetary impact then and there, about how the voice assistant, or the voice controlled system, they were able to fake a voice of a director and get so many $1 million actually going to the wrong accounts. So this is happening, and if you read the news, you can see that every country today wants to have some kind of regulation around artificial intelligence. It's not uh, something that we wonder. If we are seeing such things in the market, I'm sure every country wants to keep their people safe. So that's where I think responsible AI is very important, and let's see how we can think through responsible AI. To understand responsible AI, we need to take a step back and understand what is AI bias, right? So if I have to read out the definition, it is about how an anomaly in the output of the how an anomaly gets in the output of the machine learning or algorithm. Now, this could be because of the assumptions that are made during the development process, or there were prejudices in the training data itself that caused that AI bias, right? So, there are two different kinds of AI biases. One is a cognitive bias, and the other is lack of complete data. Now, what is a cognitive bias? This is sometimes, biases that we have, that we unknowingly introduce to the model, right? Maybe the training data has these biases. So let me give you an example. This is where, one of the AI systems was used to actually for hiring, and typically in that role they were all men, and so that's why the AI quickly learned that from the past data that men are more suitable for this role, right? Now, this was not something that someone did on purpose, but the training data was such that, and that bias came in. Or it could be lack of complete data, like not representative data in, for example, you have data which belongs to a minority and is not considered. So these are the different kinds of biases. And as you can see, these biases don't come in at the last stage when you're deploying the model, right? This comes in early, at the time of data collection, at the time of training, at the time of fine tuning the model. So you need to ensure that you have mechanisms in place so that you can catch this bias head on, right? And not wait for post deployment, okay, and then I will think about how do I address these biases. So this is really important. Now, when we think about an approach, how should we think about AI responsibly, because it's very important. I gave you some examples, and I would feel it to be very difficult if these decisions about me were being made by based on my gender or my ethnicity, right? So when you're thinking about AI and how do you make it responsible, there are three pivots, like points in a triangle. You need to first think about the people, the process, and the governance. You need to have mechanisms to get all these three together and think about how you can think about having a more responsible AI model. Now, with that, I will dovetail into Microsoft's AI principles, because I believe that Microsoft was an early, adopter of AI, responsible AI, because sometimes you learn by mistakes. And I think Microsoft also learned early on. And that's why today we have these principles that govern how you should think about AI, right? Or responsible AI. So the first four that we have here: fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, are properties of a responsible AI model. And transparency and accountability, it runs all over across these four properties, right? So whenever we are developing AI solutions in Microsoft, be it for Azure, be it for customers, we abide strictly by these governing principles, and this has really helped us to ensure that the AI that we have in the market is uh, following the responsible AI framework, right? There's lots to do, there's lots to learn. We are still on the brink of starting early adoption. Now, with that, I will take a minute to talk about Azure Machine Learning, and specifically about how responsible AI can be done with Azure Machine Learning. So, Azure Machine Learning is a platform as a service which is part of Azure. And what this really helps is to do your end to end machine learning. So, anything to do with ML ops, it supports open source. So, you can get in a PyTorch or a Keras or a TensorFlow model, and it works beautifully well there. It is compliant from a hybrid, and it provides security, enterprise grade security. And the most important thing that is important is the responsible, how it helps you deliver responsible solutions, right? So this is an example which we worked with Ernest and Young, and using the responsible AI feature part of Azure Machine Learning, we were able to reduce the disparity in loan decision making by 7% for men and women. Right. So, with this, we were able to identify errors in the module, diagnose these errors, mitigate, and then protect privacy as well. So this is an example before I get into how you can really achieve it. And also at Microsoft, we believe that it's not only Azure or Microsoft Cloud that needs to have these responsible AI toolkit available, but we've also gone ahead and open source these toolkits. So whatever I will be talking through now, will you can do it as part of Azure machine learning, but all these tools are available as open source GitHub repositories, which you can actually go and uh, imbibe within your own models, right? So because we believe that everyone needs to get those tools so that we can address or make these models more fair. So when we think about the responsible AI tools, we think more about how do you debug these machine learning models. If you think in case of app development, when you have an issue, you need to debug the application. Similarly, in machine learning, there are very few such tools or a debugging lifecycle that is available. So this is what we have. We have really divided it into three major parts. How do you identify um, errors in your machine learning algorithm? How do you diagnose them, and how do you mitigate and protect them? How do you take action against those, right? So this is where we have the concept of the responsible AI dashboard, and these are the tools that combine together, which you can use to uh, create that responsible AI framework, right? So I will deep dive into each of these in detail, and I will also show you a demo. So the first thing, as I said, is identify. For identify, we have two major tools available. One is error analysis and fair learn. Let me start with that. Now, error analysis. So what does it really mean, and what you can do using this tool, right? Now think about the models that we build today. How do we say that the model is doing good? We typically will go with a parameter or a metric like error rates. If the model has a 90% error rate or accuracy, if the model has so much of accuracy, then the model is doing good. Or if the false positive rate is this and the recall rate is this, or the area under the AUC curve is this much, then the model is doing good. But what we've observed is that just measuring your model based on a metric or one or two metrics is not enough. What about the underlying cohorts in that data that you have? For example, uh, consider the example of attrition, right? Now when you say that your model has attained an error rate of say 6%, which is great, but has that error rate been attained for all kinds of cohorts within your data? For example, have you tested the model to say that women who are above 40 years of age, the attrition model will predict their staying or attrition rates in the right way? Is the error rate still 6%? These are some challenges that when we go and talk to a data scientist, they are not able to scale, because already we see that in the industry, data scientists are doing much more than just the modeling, right? So imagine um, dividing your data into different cohorts and testing the output of that model for each of the cohorts. I think it's impossible. That's where we have this error analysis tool, wherein you can actually, based on your business priorities, figure out which are the important cohorts, and also understand how is the uh, error rates for those cohorts. And it's a very graphical tool, and it really helps you understand where are the errors happening, right? So I will do a demo of this to explain it further, but this is what error analysis helps with, and we've seen many organizations benefiting when we think about uh, this way of error identification. The next set of tools that we have is around fairness in AI. Now, the fairness tools that we have, they address two different kinds of unfairness. One is harm of quality of service. So think about this. I can think of an example wherein you can, if you're developing a system which is, say, a text to speech or voice to, text kind of a thing, and the outcome for locals or native speakers is better than the non-native speakers, then that's what is called as harm of quality of service, right? So the fairness tools that we have can help you identify that, and it also helps you identify harm of allocation. What this means is giving different opportunities to different set of people. Like in this example, you can see that if you have a model for screening of loans or for job applications, and if, say for example, a set of men or a set of ethnicity get better jobs, that's what can be identified by these fairness tools, right? So these are the main things that we have as a tool that can help you. Now all this is part of the responsible AI dashboard, and you can see that all coming to life together. You cannot use only one. You would typically go through the entire cycle of identify, diagnose, and create action, right? So when you see what we give is how does this work really. So you need to provide the fairness tool your sensitive parameters. Now when I say sensitive parameters, it could be around the gender, it could be around age, it could be around ethnicity, right? I'm just giving examples that are coming to my mind. It can be based on what is your, like for example, in the previous one I talked about local or people speaking native language speakers versus non-native language speakers. So you can pass that as a parameter, and it will tell you uh, what is the accuracy when you have male versus female, and then you can say that based on this, is there any disparity based on the gender. And this works for most of the model formats, be it scikit-learn, PyStorch, and keras. And this today works with classification and regression model types. So at the end of the day, you will get a report which tells you that, hey, your model, is it more biased towards men or more biased towards women. I'm just giving an example, right? So how fair is your model? That's what you will get out of this right now. uh, Typically, what would you do for an unfairness mitigation? You would use some other algorithms so that you can actually remove that or make it better. You can make the model fairer, right? So that's what is the outcome of the fairlearn tool. The next one is about how do I diagnose and how do I interpret and understand counterfactuals, right? Now this is very important. So uh, you want to interpret what's happening. So for example, let's consider you went use the rai dashboard, and you figured out there is a problem with one set of cohort or one data. Now why is there that kind of issue, what is happening, is where interpretability will help you uncover that, right? So when you see the demo, you can see how seamless it is for you to then navigate to the next thing. Now in terms of interpret models, we support tabular data, and we have models like SHAP and Interpret ML that can be used. And again, this supports Python models with, be it of the Scikit family, TensorFlow, PyTorch, Keras, and it can be used for classification and regression, family of algorithms. Now, this is an example that I would like to share. This is a Scandinavian airlines, and they used the Interpret ML feature with Azure machine learning. So the use case for them was basically that uh, they have a loyalty program, and they saw that people had started to game the loyalty program. Now they wanted to understand which were the fraudulent transactions so that they don't incentivize those set of transactions or those set of customers. Now this is a very sensitive problem because imagine if they fail, they will actually not incentivize a loyal customer. So this is where they were able to use Interpret ML, understand how and what's happening at each cohort level, and they were able to catch that fraudulent transactions using Azure machine learning. The next tool I would like to talk about is counterfactual analysis. Now, so let me give an example here, right? So imagine that I have taken a loan and my application is rejected. Right now, I would like to know which is the next data point which is similar to me. When I say a data point, it's a person who's similar to me in terms of my feature set, who's got a loan approved, right? So that is what is counterfactual analysis. So imagine if it's Jeremy who is the person who got a loan approved, he's very close to what I have as data points. Then A, it helps me understand what should I be doing to get the loan next time. B, if Jeremy got the loan because he's a male and I did not get the loan because of a female, then you can seriously see that the model is not fair, right? But if he got the loan because of financial criteria, for example, if I had opened loans and I have not repaid them or things like that, then if I didn't get the loan because of that, then it makes perfect sense. So it's not only helping me validate the fairness of my model, but it's also able to tell me what is the next data point that will help me to, if I course correct here, I may get the result or the outcome that I need, right? So the beauty about the Azure counterfactual analysis is that it also not only shows you the real data. For example, if there was nobody really close to my data point, it would still create default data and show you that what if analysis to show that, okay, what if you did this, then this would happen, right? So it also generates those kind of data, because in the real world getting that data is very challenging, and that's why this counterfactual analysis really helps. Now, you have actually identified the errors in the model, you've done this diagnosis of the model, you understood what if analysis. Now, how do you take action so that the you are ensuring that the result or the outcome that you need is achieved, right? So sorry, this is where we have causal inference. How this works is actually you let me take an example of employee attrition, right? So you identified using rai dashboard, responsible AI dashboard, the cohort for which the error rate is high. Then you kind of figured out, use interpret NML to see what's happening inside, why is it this way. Now you want to change the outcome or see if I do this, does this help? So what you could do with causal inference is provide a set of treatments or corrective actions to see in the real world what is the outcome that will change. For example, uh, you have, as an organization, you have your last 10 years of uh, attrition and the reason why an employee the reason why they actually left the company or things like that, right? So now, say Poonam is the latest data point that comes to that model, you've created a model. Now you can provide multiple treatments, like for example leveling up the stock or a promotion and things like that, and you can see if the result changes from, okay, likelihood of attrition is going down or is it going up. So this causal inference really helps you to know what is it that I need to do to fix the problem, right? So I would like to summarize with responsible AI dashboard. We are covering three major ML debugging opportunities. One is to identify the errors. The second one is actually to diagnose what's happening. And the third is how do I mitigate these errors, or how do I mitigate what's happening, right? How do I change the action? Now, as I said, we have open sourced whatever tools I talked about today, and this is a GitHub links to most of these tools. And you can really readily go and mostly it'll be a pip install or something, and then just get started. Now, if you are a part of an enterprise who is already using Azure machine learning, now typically a larger customer or a organization, or even for that matter a big startup or a unicorn, would like to go with Azure machine learning is because it is an end-to-end platform. It comes with enterprise grade security, and it has all the needs that an organization would need, like scalability, cost effectiveness, and things like that. So responsible AI tools are also clubbed with Azure machine learning, and this is how you can get started. So there's a GitHub link that you can go and look at, and it tells you exactly how to use each and every tool and how do you integrate that with Azure machine learning, right? So to summarize, the top needs to implement a responsible AI solution. In the prepare phase, you need to know if my data is labeled right and is representative. In the train phase, you need to know how I can improve my AI quality. In the validate stage, I need to know if the data, the models are fair, reliable, and explainable. In the deploy stage, I need to know how to monitor and debug our AI systems, right? If that's not possible, then again, you're not coming through with the framework. And when you're operationalizing it, you need to be able to explain the results. Believe me, when I work with organizations, many a times, uh, you know, we get the best models, but we are not able to explain the outcomes to the business users, and that's where the models never see the light at the end of the tunnel. So that is also very important. So the responsible AI dashboard and the framework that I spoke about captures all of these stages and all of these key aspects in every stage. So with that, I will move on to the demo. Uh, I hope you're able to see my screen. This is the Azure portal, portal.azure.com, and this is how you get started with creating a machine learning service. So I would typically go here and start creating an Azure machine learning workspace. Right, I've already created a workspace right now, but typically it will ask you where you are and which region you want to create it and things like that. Right, so this is where I create the machine learning workspace. Now, this has got a studio experience, so when I click on this, it takes me here. Now, as I said, Azure Machine Learning is that it provides that end-to-end framework for any machine learning project, right? Now, uh, at Microsoft, we believe that anybody should be able to do machine learning. So, what we have is different views for different personas, right? So, if you go to a designer view, this is where, for example, if I have people who are business analysts. And when you think about machine learning, it's not only about the Python expertise or the R expertise that you have, right? It is about understanding the business, understanding the challenge. That is more important. So, a business analyst who is not very code friendly should also be able to do machine learning. So, this is where we have, a drag and drop style of doing machine learning, wherein you can actually do the end to end machine learning exercise or create a model and deploy it in production as well, just by dragging and dropping features. So think of it more like a flowchart experience. Now, there are um there are folks or data scientists. Typically what I've seen as data scientists, we would want to try different algorithms before we come to that one algorithm that helps us, right? So what we have is automated ML, wherein you can actually provide us the data set and tell us if you want to do a classification, regression, time series analysis, and we will, based on the data, run through. And also obviously you need to tell us what is the metric of interest, and then we will run through different models and tell you which is the best model for your data set and the metric that you're interested in, right? So this is another way wherein you don't have to, it is a low code no code option. And I see that many data scientists use this as the first step to come to a conclusion of which is the models that they need to work with, right? So that's one. Now, for data scientists who want to go ahead and do their own thing and just need an environment, right? This is where we have a notebook experience, wherein we provide the compute and you can actually start building your code. We have all the libraries pre-installed. You can definitely go and install whatever you need. So this is how we provide that experience. Now, it is not just left to that. We understand that machine learning is not just about modeling, it's about data preparation, about many aspects, how to see if there's a data drift that's happened. So typically, how do you create that pipelining experience is where it also helps. Once the model is created, then you can actually deploy it on AKS clusters, Kubernetes clusters, and that is also, almost automated, and you can go ahead with it. There are many other aspects of it. Today, I will show you how do I integrate my model with RAI dashboards, right? So This is how I start. I have these widgets that are available. I install the package, and I've run a simple classifier. I have this public data set, which is a housing data set, and I've just run simple classification, right? Now, what I do is I say that please, push the output of this model into the uh, the RAI dashboard, and please add the explainability, error analysis, and counterfactual features of the dashboard. Now once you do that, this is what you get, right? uh, this is where I can actually come and see. So error analysis comes like a tree format. It tells me what is the overall error rate, what is the error rate at this level, what is the error rate at a feature level. So if the garage was built before 1976, my error rate is 46%. So this is something that I need to understand, why is it happening. If my uh, living room area was greater than this, and my remodeling was done before this area, then my error rate is 18%. So see, I'm unearthing so many things. If you see at the model level, my error rate is 9%. So typically any data scientist will say, oh, error rate is 9%, it's a very good model. But when you go and see the data this way, you understand that okay, there are parts of my in my model or my cohorts where I need to look into it. So you can typically go and say save this as a new cohort, and it will give you a name. Now the next thing that you have is about how is the model performing. For the I have created cohorts for older houses, older bigger houses. You can see that the accuracy here is not good. What is the false positive rate, and things like that, right? So this is my model debugging further. Now, it can also tell me what is the feature importance, like which are the features that are really contributing to, the end outcome. So here, if I had a feature like a house cannot have a gender, but if I had that, or if a house was owned by, say, a Latino or a person of color, if that was a contributing factor to my model, then if it shows up here, then I need to do something about it. So that's another way. And then the counterfactual analysis, as I said, you can dig deeper into a data point, and then see counterfactual. So it says that if the lot area is increased, then maybe the overall condition increases and things like that. So this is what I wanted to showcase. There is much more that you can do with the RAI dashboard, and I've shared all that code as well with you. With that, I would like to open up for question and answers, or any questions that you may have, any feedback about the session.
Thank you so much, Poonam, for this very insightful session about responsible AI. So, yeah, we will now move into the Q&A session. I think we have another 5 to 6 minutes, so we'll answer maybe 2 to 3 questions. So,
Mm-hmm.
as participants, if you have any questions, feel free to use the question box on the right-hand side of the screen. Just click that and then just type your question there, okay? So let me just go through a few questions first. Um, all right, so I have this question. Let me project the question on the screen. We have one question from one of the attendees. Do you think most companies out there have a governance framework and are actually committed to responsible AI? What is your observation on this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. As I said, responsible AI. So uh, there are two aspects to it, right? AI till few years had not seen this mass adoption, and now suddenly every application, everywhere you see there's AI. Anything that you would go down and watch, it is everything has AI. So it's not an option not to have a governance framework. And yes, I know many organizations have this responsible AI framework, and they are committed, because otherwise, you're losing your reputation, you're losing uh, the value. It is not only for goodness that you need to do responsible AI. It is, I gave you the example of E&Y. I gave you this example. There are many such examples where, there are some customers I work with who use these models in an ICU. And imagine if that model behaved differently for different ethnicity. Imagine how that experience would be. So, yes, there are many organizations committed to responsible AI, and this is not just an option. You have to commit to it.
I see. Thank you so much for that, Poonam. But just I'm just curious also from my end, like because you did mention like EY or that those are I would say larger organizations. What about like
Mm.
smaller companies like startups and all that? Do you see that as well from them?
Um, so I would say that the adoption is not as much, when it comes, because, when you're a startup, you're thinking about more of how do I sustain and things like that. But sometimes, for a startup, adopting responsible AI can be that value proposition as well. So they need to think of it this way. And, we at Microsoft believe that responsible AI needs to be everywhere. And that's why, if you see, we've also open sourced these tools. So for startups who don't or cannot go, with the cloud provider or don't want to, they can still use these open source tools to ensure that their models are fair and, have responsible AI in them from day one.
Mm, thanks for that, Poonam. And let me see if we have, yeah, we do have a few more questions. Maybe I'll pick one. Let me just project this question. Though it's not really related to responsible AI, but Poonam, can you give your thoughts on this? What is your opinion? Will AI steal most jobs?
So yeah, this is a question I get asked all the time, and I so okay, let me tell you my fair opinion. Okay, so today AI, as I said, is the brain of my 7-year-old child. Okay, it really, AI is only thinking at that level, and it has got huge potential.
Mm,
And I really feel that we should look at AI to complement us in our jobs rather than think of it as in a negative connotation that it's going to steal your job, right?
mm,
That means multiple things to a person. It means that, yes, we need to identify. So if you see today, AI has, where has it been successful? It has been successful in automating mundane jobs. It's been successful where, there's a lot of data thrown at it and you're able to achieve success. So as a person, if you're able to upskill yourself, then you will actually appreciate AI and use it to make your work better. That's how I see the use of AI. I don't see that it can really take away uh, jobs. I think we humans are have that superiority, not superiority, but have that element of thinking. So I think we are just born that way. We are gifted that way, and AI is not yet there.
mm.
That's what I think.
Thank you for that, Poonam. So with that, I'm afraid I need to end this session because we do need to prepare for the next coming two sessions. So
Yep,
I would like to take this time to thank Poonam. Thank you so much for joining this event, and take care. And I hope to see you one day.
sure.
Thank,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Take care, all of you. Bye.
So for the rest of the participants, we do have two upcoming sessions which will be running concurrently. Let me share my screen. I'll let you know what are the sessions. Just give me 1 second. Yep. So if you can see my screen, in the next session, we have Mr. Eric Nguyen, who is a senior manager from Synergy Group Australia, who will be sharing about using data for post-COVID recovery. Okay. And the next session, which will be running concurrently, is from Mr. Jose Curto Diaz, who is the founder of Antenna Core. So he'll be talking about fairness, how AI creates and maintains inequalities. Okay, so feel free to go through the session that we have and select the session that you would like to join. And I'll see you back in a couple of minutes. Thank you. Bye bye.